Greetings, beautiful viewers. This is Smitten. Welcome to How to Fail at Smite, my original Smite series where I pick up a new god for the first time and poke fun at how I play so that both of us can learn from my mistakes. Episode 9, Loki. By popular vote from our Facebook and Twitter, I'm forced to bring you folks a guide on Loki. Seeing as how you're all determined to make me suffer, here we go. As always, I'll be covering his abilities first. Make sure you watch the end of the video when I do a recap for the skill prioritization and item builds. Loki's passive Behind You increases damage done to targets when hit from behind by 20%. This really tells you that while playing Loki, you don't want to be committing to a fight as he's easily beaten if his initial attack fails. His number one ability is Vanish. Not only does this make you invisible for 4 seconds as the name suggests, it buffs your movement speed by 35% while making you immune to slows, not stuns or silences. And on top of that, if you use this on the offensive, any enemy you hit while stealth or for 2 seconds afterwards will begin to bleed and take physical damage plus 20% of your physical power for 2 seconds, totaling 4 ticks. His second ability is Decoy. This will distract enemy minions and buff camps alike, allowing you time to either engage an enemy god or put your passive to good use to clear buff camps quickly. When the timer is up, it explodes and does AoE damage to anything in the area. It can also body block people, clear Artemis's traps, and block basic attacks. Dance around it to save yourself in a tight situation. Aim Strike is his third ability. This is your damage steroid that deals massive damage plus 100% of your physical power and applies a 25% slow to the victim for 3 seconds. Even after the massive nerf, this attack can still burst down an opponent. And lastly, his ultimate is Assassinate, a teleport, a heavy hitter, and a stun all rolled into one package. It's your best escape and your best initiator, so use it wisely. If you can get to someone with Vanish and burn them down quick enough, don't waste this. It might be the only way you can escape after getting the kill. With that finally covered, we'll jump right into it. Artemis is my lane mate, and we started off clearing the gold camp and the speed buff before moving into the lane and finding that our adversaries for this phase would be Thor and Aphrodite. I find myself with an inability to not get hit by Aphrodite's lovebirds, and Thor feels emboldened by his new skin and he charges forth to attempt to kill off Artemis. I eat the Mjolnir's Mine on the return, and the sustain provided by Aphrodite begins to show its effectiveness as both of our opponents pursued us at full health. While at the same time, Artemis and I are low on health and even lower on mana. That doesn't stop her from marching forward towards a dire situation. Without my ult, I'm pretty unimposing and even less intimidating as once again I run into the lovebirds that weren't even aimed at me. I waste my decoy on the melee minions and retreat away as Thor dives in with Berserker's Barrage, punishing Artemis for her overextension. From what I know about Loki, this isn't a fight that I want to be in. Both of them have some nasty stuns and I still don't have a solid way of escaping without Assassinate, so I hang out by my archers ensuring that I'll eat another lovebird just to show them that I ain't playing. When Thor moves up to melee my archers, I do the only correct thing and zone myself unnecessarily before finally getting some sense and turning around to see them dip into the jungle. I thought this seemed suspicious and call MIA and right before Thor pokes his head around the corner and tries to come in for the engage. My cowardly playstyle actually did me some good as I dip under my tower. As Aphrodite comes up, I start to feel a little bit bold and try to pursue. Just as the idea slips through my head, Thor throws down his tectonic rift and separates her from me, preventing any attempt on the squishy. As a fresh wave of minions arrives, I once again use my decoy too early, ensuring the archers won't take any damage from it before retreating from Thor's Berserker's Barrage. On the bright side, I did manage to evade those lovebirds, and Artemis arrives just in time to help push back the mini wave as our opponents head back to base. I remember my passive and position myself to take damage from the archers just so I can get that additional 20% on the infantry. Landing melee attacks sure is difficult, and I circle around my stationary adversaries, landing backstabs occasionally, only when the opportunity presents itself, of course. With a clear lane, I could use this time to go get the cooldown buff before returning to push the lane. But Loki isn't Sun Wukong, he doesn't need buffs. I successfully landed my decoy where it would also hit archers, but unfortunately I used it when it wasn't the least bit helpful as we didn't need to distract them for any reason. So really, all I did was waste my mana in the most fancy way possible. With that handled and my ultimate unlocked, I back, only to find that I can't afford my boots yet, which I could have noticed by either remembering the price and checking my gold, or looking for the flashing icon on the top of the screen representing an item tier that can be afforded. So instead of farming on the next wave of minions before Thor and Aphrodite return, I spend my time pacing in the well until I can get the 15 gold I require. This poor decision making also left me without enough capital to invest in potions, and in a down market, not having enough capital is a sure way to lose money on an investment. I head to middle lane not remembering the buff respawn timers. I still have another minute before either respawns, but that doesn't dissuade me one bit. I could take a moment to get some jungling in the left jungle, but instead of clearing the gold camp or getting the attack buff, I opt for heading into the left lane to assist my besieged teammates. As Jameer goes down to Bacchus, I trundle past the empty blue buff and aim to emerge in the lane in front of my opponents. I pop Vanish ridiculously early and charge forth ready for action. I activate Aim Strike and completely miss my ult. Surprising myself with how poorly things are going, I attempt to chase around Bacchus before tossing down Decoy and getting locked in a stun. Breaking away from the unsuccessful attack, I remember my bad investments and fall to a basic attack without having a potion to fall back on. Chapter 1. Why you not let me kill you? Back in right lane, I cleared the gold camp and Artemis took the speed buff due to my inability to pop in the jungle. My decoy is just a bit shy of the outer archers as I peel off into the jungle trying to track down Aphrodite. I correctly break off the chase, however, and return to the lane as Artemis clears the wave. As we advance forward, the only thing that is conspicuous about this is the absence of our enemies. I'm not too concerned, Artemis has already called the MIA before I spot the pair coming towards us from the jungle. Thor kneels down and ignites his thrusters in preparation for liftoff, and I sound the retreat. Just then I turn to see what looks like Aphrodite smack Artemis with a cartoonish hammer. And Artemis escapes as Tusky the Boar gets all up in Thor's grill. Time to do what Loki does best, and I bear down on the hapless squishy before her knockback sends me away and I use a decoy on my own minions. With all the friendlies successfully distracted and our enemies appearing to be content in their positions, Artemis and I retreat down the lane. Chapter 2. Not So Sneaky. Having successfully not died again and started on Executioner, I head towards left lane as our creep is at the tower on right, so we have the opportunity to either roam for ganks or farm. I'm thinking about jungling and decide to pass on the gold camp and get disappointed by the stolen blue buff. With Ymir in the lane, I trail behind Agni and start weighing my options. I know I'm low on farm and need to make something happen and that our opponents have a solid lead in kills, but I'm reluctant to check the lane to see if anyone is present, and instead stumble upon the opponent's cooldown buff and find it ready for the taking. Tossing down my decoy, I begin attacking the buff camp, not thinking to check the position of any of my enemies, considering I can't see a single one of them on the minimap. With everyone out of position to support me in any way, I'm overly confident in my ability to secure this and escape. Just as the buff camp reaches the half health mark, Bacchus dives in on top of me and delivers his stun. Wasting my vanish, he ults me and leaving me drunk, I use my assassinate to escape just as it comes off cooldown. Wobbling into my lane leaves me wondering why I didn't pull the mobs into the jungle rather than locking myself in enclosed space. And just as the thought finishes, Apollo dives down on me to finish me off, concluding a death that shouldn't have happened. Chapter 3. Traumatized. Back from the grave, it's time to jungle. No, never mind. I guess I'll happily pass up both buff camps as well as the gold camp to rush into right lane to do something more productive. I arrive just in time to see Artemis die to lovebirds and vanish just in time for Thor to stun me. And to capitalize on this, I don't even consider using my ult on Aphrodite to stun her under the tower and secure the kill. I feel it more productive to run away. Following up my too little too late mentality, I toss down my decoy on the infantry, again effectively doing nothing to the archers, and continue to retreat, noticing my window of opportunity has closed. Ah, something more suited to my abilities. This won't take much time at all. I'll burn these minions down so... Wait, I should be hitting these guys from the back. Yeah, that'll show them. Time to pull out the mission accomplished banner and soar off into the jungle in search of my next first meal. Confusion takes hold at first as to where I should go when I see that the cooldown buff is active. After thoroughly checking everywhere for my opponents, I decided best not to engage in fear of what happened last time as I see the red silhouettes of Thor and Aphrodite and move back into the lane. As I emerge, I ready my decoy once again to halt the advance of their minions and promptly waste it on a single melee minion. This is enough to allow my minion wave to move forward and drive Thor away from the tower. Mjolnir's Might pierces my minions and Berserker's Barrage brings them down, and I refuse to ult onto him to lock him under the tower and instead flee in panic. As Aphrodite advances behind her archers to take shots at the tower, Apollo surprises me from behind. I vanish quickly to escape, but he mesmerizes me, pulling me out of it and starts blasting away. Luckily, the cooldown reset, and I retreat to safety, turning to see that Thor and Aphrodite were in hot pursuit as well. Having learned much since the Wukong video, I run back a little further before beginning to back. Sometimes reviewing your games can make a difference. Chapter 4. How do you drive this thing? After a quick heal and purchase of some health pots, I venture out once more into middle lane with the intent of doing some desperately needed farming when I catch sight of Ymir engaging in the right jungle and appears to be outnumbered by Thor and Aphrodite, so I rush in to assist. Eager to contribute, I look for the quickest way to join Ymir and demonstrate my inability to read basic skill information on the lifetime of an ability and waste my 4-second vanish. Assassination in hand, I pursue Thor rather than Aphrodite and land somewhere close by with my amazing accuracy. With Thor hovering above us, I proceed to hunt down Aphrodite without an ability to use to close the distance on her, even if I did manage to catch up. With no one in sight, I pace about the jungle indecisively, wasting more time rather than heading directly to the lane to finish farming. Those 2 points in Assassinate sure paid off. Chapter 5. Squishier than I thought. At the 14-minute mark, my inability to farm shines as I still only have Tier 1 of Executioner completed, and I'm on the hunt for buffs. Tragically, the enemy team has been effective at invading our jungle and stealing our buffs. Entering the lane, I'm still really anxious to get an attack buff and consider moving towards Fire Giant and around to pick it up, but instead decide marching right in front of Ao Kuang would be the best course of action. I find this buff camp intact and demonstrate my inability to learn, or perhaps my fear of being noticed? I drop my decoy and engage the buff camp in the narrow, walled-in confines rather than dragging them into the lane to help with a quick escape if the situation calls for it. A single tornado could really wreck my day and steal his buff from me, but I'm hoping Agni can distract him long enough to allow me to steal this. Even with burning all my cooldowns, my lack of damage shines, and this venture steals a lot of health and mana from me. Noticing this, I briefly think about backing before going in search of more buffs that I won't be able to get. At the same time, Apollo moved in on mid lane and is attacking Agni. I could have ulted in and helped burn one of the assailants down, but my time is better spent wasted in the jungle. With the blue camp disappointingly cleared, I venture forth into right lane to find a hapless Aphrodite ready for a quick and decisive kill. Unfortunately, I didn't take that mana potion I'd been sitting on this whole time and can't afford the cost of assassination and instead embarrassingly sprint away from a kill that should have been mine. Something really basic about Loki, you wait for and seize opportunities. I would have picked up the kill if I had taken my potion, waited for her to pull back a bit, and launched in with Vanish and Assassinate with a decoy to help my escape. Instead, this happened. Chapter 6, a day late and $1 short. Stoic and determined, I return and find a gold camp I can take, and with the attack buff and tier 2 of execution, I make short work of it with my health and cooldowns intact. I level and divide my attention between what I want to level next in the minimap. I can see we have an engagement going on in mid that could really use my prowess, and place a point into Vanish for some reason, rather than maxing aim strike. With that handled, I'm ready to commit to my decision to assist my team. At least I use my recently leveled Vanish, prep Assassinate before landing close to the dead body of AO, and turn around to stare at my handiwork. Seeing Tusky the Boar makes me painfully aware of how many ults we've used to kill a single god, and correctly decide not to use decoy in this situation to prevent adding any more to the humiliation. As I ready my decoy, Apollo lifts off towards the stars just as Bacchus belly flops down in between Artemis and I. Neith makes an appearance and the fight is on, with me in full retreat from 2 people. Coming to my senses, I rally and charge in, burning my Vanish and tracking down Bacchus rather than the weakened Apollo. My assassination accuracy isn't the only thing that could use work, and I miss all my initial strikes on Bacchus. These are basic attacks, and I can't seem to collect myself enough to land any of them. Bacchus makes a narrow escape, and I withdraw from Thor to find a rooted Aphrodite, and move in with aim strike charged and ready to... Miss? Again? Unable to do anything short of ineffectively fail around, Aphrodite builds her confidence and re-enters the lane, and I pop Vanish and take a stab at her. If only that stab were anywhere close, she might have had some regret for her decision. Aphrodite makes it safely up the lane to her team, so I decide to burn what little mana I have left on a decoy, and after some pacing, I finally take my mana potion. Ymir enters and tosses up a wall behind Thor, but no one is in position or has the mana to do anything to capitalize, so we return to dancing about for position in a teamfight that should be over. But when Agni gets stunned, I run headlong into Thor's Berserker's Barrage to miss another basic attack. Aphrodite's kiss sails right by my right shoulder, and Apollo lands his Mesmerize, and I start feeling my heart rate increase. I pop my Vanish and make an actually good decision as I peel off into the jungle over Artemis's trap to safety. Ymir calls for the attack while I call for the retreat. I was correct on that one, and he dies immediately. Time to head back, and from a safe distance I begin to channel my teleport to lick my wounds from that embarrassing exchange. Chapter 7, Shoulda Known Better. I really can't keep going like I have been. I desperately need to get some farm in, so I head to the left lane and burn my decoy in yet another terrible position. If I could just employ some patience, I could land these things where they would do damage to all the minions, but patience isn't my modus operandi. Occasionally backstabbing opponents that don't move, however, definitely is, but even their immobility doesn't ensure I'll connect with every attack. I know that Thor is incoming on my position from seeing him on the minimap and break away from the minions to find him in the jungle heading towards me. As I turn my back on him in the attempt of finding a better engagement, he lands Tectonic Rift and blinks ahead of me to initiate Berserker's Barrage as I vanish and head off into the jungle. Now with his cooldowns wasted, I turn to actually land and assassinate! I'm gonna kill him! Apollo! The stupid pretty boy rushes in and saves Thor with this stupid Mesmerize, and I rush off in the wrong direction when I could have gone up and landed a single auto attack to kill Thor. Knowing that Apollo has a chariot he can fly around on to get kills, I don't hang close to the jungle wall. Instead, I choose the opposite in the lane where I'll be wide open for this. I hate music. Chapter 8, The Cost of Split Decisions. Upon my eventual resurrection, I pushed up middle lane to secure some much-needed farm, and then saw that Neith was engaged and left. Instead of attempting to take down a nearly dead tower, I decided my efforts are better spent elsewhere and rushed off to join her against Aphrodite. I'm pretty committed to using decoy whenever possible and not hitting any archers with it. Neith roots her, and I finally managed to land a backstab as she pops Undying Love to make her escape. Why did Smitten cross the road? Because she missed with Assassinate, that's why. Just as I start to feel confident that I'll finally kill someone and pop my aim strike, Apollo makes another unnecessary and unwanted appearance and burns down Neith before either of us can react. It's time to retreat, but I don't have any cooldowns to assist me in that endeavor, and I use them all on Aphrodite, and the pair turns the table and picks up a double kill. Enjoy your free tower, nerds. Chapter 9, Bloodlust. That's it, I've had it. I'm not gonna miss anything else anymore, I swear. I'm gonna decoy these archers and... Okay, they're barely in range, so I'm pushing them out! Well, at least the decoy managed to drive them away from our Phoenix momentarily, and then I catch sight of Aphrodite. You're gonna get it this time! I miss my auto attacks, but Neith's arrow locks her in place, and I get to work delivering backstab after semi-brutal and underpowered for the 23-minute mark backstab. Kill in hand, it's time to chase something! Bacchus, get over here! He pops meditation as I pop my aim strike, and the heat is on! With aim strike expired, I decided that now's the time to pop my sprint and race after a target I don't have the damage to bring down, thanks to my choice of Devourer's Gloves and poor farming. Following him down the lane, I can see Apollo and AO coming, but I don't care, I just want to kill something. Now wobbly from intoxication, I miss every attack and eat a tornado. Retreating too late, I proceed to predictably die to Apollo's moves. Don't over pursue like this is Loki, just don't! With that death and the long respawn timer, the match is short-lived and we surrender about a minute later. Good game to my allies and a good game and well played to my opponents. This match was a bit painful to play and I had to do a whole chain of them to find one that didn't run on too long. Pure torture. I'm obviously out of my element when it comes to melee characters, as now has been thoroughly demonstrated by Arachne, Sun Wukong, and now Loki. Maybe one day I'll be up to the task of a melee assassin, but that day is not today, and it serves me right for opening it up to a vote on which god that I play, which for some reason I'll be doing again for the next video on Facebook and Twitter. Please be nicer next time. As far as this match, the scores speak for themselves. 1, 5, and 2. Well played, Smitten. Time for the recap. I was horrified when Loki won the popular vote for the next field video, not just because he's difficult, but rather because he is Soapbox's favorite god, so the personal and professional pressure was high. In my opinion, Loki is a difficult god to get the hang of. His kit isn't made to participate in teamfights, and that isn't something that I grasped onto in this match. Loki needs to spend a lot of time farming so he can get the level and gold advantage he needs to be a scary force on the field. By the time he gets his ultimate, Loki usually says goodbye to the laning phase to jungle and gank. However, my teammates were getting hammered in all lanes throughout this entire match, and by the time I decided to do any jungling, it was too late. I played a few more games with Loki and I actually had fun, so maybe I will have to revisit him in the future now that I have learned a little bit more about him. More than most assassins or carries, Loki's skill prioritization allows him to play different positions exceptionally well. Be it the standard prowling assassin or hold solid mid feasting on the squishy magelings, you can fill the role that is necessary. For standard laning business, throw a point into decoy to assist with those early camps and pick up vanish second so you can have a solid escape and initiator. After that, just max out your aim strike and level the ultimate whenever it's available. That is, if you can land it. Once aim strike is leveled, if you're fed enough, skip over decoy and start leveling vanish, because at level 5 it will do 360 damage over 2 seconds. It could be the difference between a kill and a narrow escape. If you're not behind but not fed, level up your decoy next, as it will single-handedly clear minion waves and devastate buff camps at level 5, allowing you to catch up or to expand a lead. If you're playing from behind the whole game or in mid, level decoy first and roam as much as possible. Clear all the buff camps you can to keep your farm up. You don't need to go after kills and can capitalize on respawns easily this way. As I mentioned earlier, if you can't land the ultimate well, don't level it. The points are better spent elsewhere, and putting points into it doesn't reduce the cooldown. Also, don't use your ultimate on an enemy who is backing at the time. They'll pull you back to their base and you'll die from standing in the well. Now, on to the items. Your core items are pretty simple. Start off with Warrior's Tabby and then go into either Executioner or Void Blade. Executioner if you're low on farm, and Void Blade if you're not, just based off the cost of the two items. Next, pick up Void Blade if you don't have it already, or Titan's Bane if you do. After that, grab Deathbringer and your core build is done. After that, you've got some choices. Loki is one of the few gods where building defensive won't be much of a benefit, as no matter what, he's dead if he's in a teamfight, so go nuts. Range is a great item to pick up after Deathbringer, so you can keep the crits coming. Jotun's Wrath gives some really big benefits to Loki for the physical penetration and cooldown reduction. Not to mention the extra mana means you can snipe a kill, pull back, and return to the fight for one more combo before being completely empty. Golden Bow is a decent choice for those teamfight situations. When you burst down that mage, you can deliver 50% of the damage done to him to his nearby buddies. Kin's Blades for extra attack speed if you don't have Executioner, and to help burn down mages that think having Warlock Sash is a good thing. Brawler's Beat Stick is the way to go if they have heals on their team. Witchstone if there's another Loki or a Freya Bakasura on their team, and if they're really good at shutting you down from getting in and out, here are the protection items. Pick up Bulwark of Hope for magical heavy teams, or Midgardian Mail to help you escape pursuers or run down a victim that tried to trade hits. And so concludes the guide on Loki. If we tickled your fancy, make sure to rate and subscribe for upcoming videos. You can also come hang out with us on Facebook and Twitter. Links in the description. Feel free to leave your suggestions on how to play this god, as well as any feedback you have for us in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. I'm Smitten, and I'll see you next time.
Good game. Bye.